أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bikum, and welcome to Perspective. My name is Faizel Patel, and today in studio I have with me Sister Sajidah Kazi, the wife of marhum Muhammad Faizel Kazi, who was brutally attacked by two men last year. You are welcome to interact with me by sharing your comments, feedback and views. Mail me on faisal@itvnetworks.tv, send me a tweet on @Faizi143, or alternatively post your comment on Facebook /Faizel Patel. Assalamu alaikum, Sajidah, and welcome to Perspective.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah for having me.
Jazakallah for being on ITV. We will speak to Sajidah in a few minutes, but I want to give you a lowdown on the story of what happened to Muhammad Faizel Kazi almost a year ago. 19 years into democracy, we still see incidents of prejudice and intolerance, whether it's race, religion, or sexual orientation, and it still cuts deep when hate crimes occur. Last year in Magaliesburg in the northwest, two Muslim men, Muhammad Faizel Kazi and Ansar Mahmoud, were attacked by two white Afrikaners, supposedly because they had long beards, which is a sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Later, Muhammad Faizel died. The assault occurred during the holy month of Ramadan. After the Ramadan Eid that followed was a very sad for the Kazi family due to the death of Muhammad Faizel. Was this an isolated incident, or is it Islamophobia gathering momentum, as it has in many parts of the world? In August 2012, Ansar Mahmoud and his friend Muhammad Faizel Kazi were on their way home to Ventersdorp. They stopped at a fast food restaurant in Magaliesburg in the northwest to buy food for iftar, which is the breaking of the fast during the holy month of Ramadan. Out of nowhere, two white men started mocking Muhammad Faizel, calling him Osama bin Laden, which is detested in Islam because of his long beard. It did not stop there. According to witnesses, the insults started from both sides, and they were eventually thrown out of the fast food outlet. Passers-by say they heard shouts of "Kuli" with a beard and the derogatory K word. It then turned even violent. Ansar was smacked in the face and completely knocked out. Muhammad Faizel was kicked repeatedly as he lay face down to protect himself from the blows. Then his head was trampled on. Ansar managed to drive himself and Muhammad Faizel to hospital. Then Muhammad passed out. The family were preparing for the evening prayers. Now, Sajidah, coming back to you, can you tell our viewers what happened on that fateful night?
Well, we were preparing. We'd been aware that Muhammad Faizel and Ansar had left to go to Magaliesburg, and we were preparing for iftar, thinking that when they come back, they would have their meals and then go for prayers. But it took very long for them to come back, and we didn't in our hearts, we didn't worry, because normally we know that Muhammad Faizel and Ansar were always, marhum Muhammad Faizel and Ansar were always together, and that they would have let us know where they were. And after a while, we had broken our fast, and after a while, I heard the doorbell ring, and I rushed there, assuming that it would be my husband. And when I went there, then my brother-in-law was at the door, and he told me, go put your abaya on, get ready, we have to go. But he didn't tell me where or anything yet. And as we were walking out, he said, no, something happened to my husband. And so we rushed off to the hospital, and when we got into the car, we saw that, his jacket was there and it had blood, and the seat was down. So we were so confused, and when we got to the hospital, it was just confusion, and we weren't able to see him. So, it was just a long wait, moving from one place to another, from hospital to hospital, hoping that there would be some way that he would just wake up and open his eyes, because he was already unconscious when we arrived at the hospital.
What was the emotion like in your house at that time? I mean, obviously your in-laws were at home as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how they felt?
Look, my mother-in-law was distraught. She was, crying, and likewise myself and my brother-in-law, Noman, he tried to keep himself strong for our sake. My brother-in-law, Farhan, was not there, but my mother-in-law was very upset because this is her eldest son, her first child, and, it hurts, I think, for any mother to go through that, not knowing. I think that was the biggest fear with us, is not knowing where he was, what had happened. We just know that something had happened and we had to leave quickly. So it was major confusion. We didn't know which way to turn. We were distraught and confused.
Okay. This is a bit of a difficult question. Do you think that this was just a scuffle gone horribly wrong or a hate crime?
When we heard everything that had happened after that, it started off with arguments that they had between each other, but after that, I can only see it as a hate crime, because who would carry on hitting somebody or continuously hit someone, or what was the need for violence after all the derogatory remarks that they had made, So I see it as a hate crime. I mean, he saw Mohammed Faiaz with a beard and he decided, I don't like the way he looks, so I'm going to attack him.
Okay. Do you think that possibly the two men were provoked and that started the scuffle?
The two men, as in Viviers and Fantona?
Yes.
No, I don't think they were provoked at all. Look, what we know is that they were irritated with the fact that he had a beard and that he was a Muslim, and so I can't call that being provoked in any way at all, because that's his appearance and he's following the sunnah of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I don't see it as Viviers and Fantona being provoked at all.
Okay, I just want to go back to the question. Earlier I mentioned that Ansar was knocked out. Was he revived, and who assisted them and helped them to take Mohammed Faiaz to hospital?
Look, as far as we know, I don't have completely all the facts right now, but as far as we know, Ansar regained consciousness himself, and then he saw Mohammed Faiaz lying on the floor, and he picked Mohammed Faiaz up and put him in the car. So he did that himself. But I know that there was a passerby who came to stop Viviers from carrying on with his attack. That's as far as we know right now. We don't know more than that.
Okay. Quickly, were the two men still there when they went to hospital?
I'm not sure, because the hospital that they arrived at was in Ventersdorp. Between the two places, there wasn't a hospital, so they didn't go there. They had come straight from there to Ventersdorp Hospital. So I'm not sure what had happened at the scene of the accident.
Okay.
Or crime.
We are speaking to Sajidah Kazi. She's the wife of Marhum Mohammed Faiaz Kazi, who was brutally and savagely attacked last year at a chicken licken outlet in Ventersdorp. We're going to go for a quick break, and inshallah, when we return, we're going to continue speaking to Sajidah Kazi. Stay tuned.
أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا.
Welcome back to Perspective. I'm Faizel Patel. This evening we're speaking to Sajidah Kazi, Sister Sajidah Kazi. She is the wife of Marhum Mohammed Faiaz Kazi, who was brutally assaulted and attacked by two white Afrikaner men at a chicken licken outlet last year, and resulting in his death. Now, Sajidah, how long were you and Mohammed Faiaz married for?
We were married for 1 year and 4 months.
And this has obviously impacted on you, very short marriage.
Of course. Look, Mohammed Faiaz and I knew each other from long, because he was in school with me. So we know each other for quite some time, but we've been married for 1 year, 4 months. But it doesn't make it any easier whether you were married for 1 year, 4 months, or whether, I know of people who've been married for many years, but it still hurts the same as when you lose your spouse.
Okay. It's been more than a year since Mohammed Faiaz has passed on. How have you and the family been coping thus far?
I think our religion and our faith, I keep mentioning that because we have so much faith in Allah Ta'ala to give us so much sabr and strength. And I think that has been what has kept us going all along. And I think a major part of what keeps us at peace also is knowing that Viviers is in jail, because bail was denied. And so he is in jail. So we know that ultimately Allah Ta'ala is the greatest, and he will give us that sabr and strength to go on. But from when the incident happened till now, I can tell you that it doesn't, that the pain doesn't go away. It's the same. But inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will give us the strength to go on.
How did you feel? Mohammed Faiaz was also a pillar of strength. He was a breadwinner for his mom and his brothers. How are they coping in all of this?
It's equally hard. I don't think you can ever understand the pain of a mother losing a child, a brother losing a brother. But I think that they also, with the help of family and friends and, by the will of Allah, they are also keeping strong and trying their best. There's going to be always that time and that moments where you miss him terribly, but I think that overall, in shukr to Allah, they also keeping strong.
Okay. This is going to be a bit of a difficult question. You were saying you were married just for a year, or under a year, and you met Mohammed Faiaz from school. You were in love with each other, and you had a blissful, happy marriage. How did you feel when the decision was made to switch off the light support machine? And can you tell us, how did you go about making the decision also?
Look, the decision, I think we've been for that whole day, from the day of the attack till when the machines were switched off, we'd been going from hospitals to hospitals. And eventually the doctors had told us that, there isn't any hope, there isn't any chance. And we know that Allah Ta'ala is the greatest, and He decides who will live and who will pass away. So we actually didn't really make a decision in that regard. The doctors came to us and told us, there's no point in keeping him on this machine. But the feeling that went through me the minute that they took it off was absolute pain. And I think that Allah Ta'ala will just keep me going through these moments, because when they switched off the machine, his heart was still beating. And I kept my hand on his heart until it stopped, because for me, he was still with me if his heart was beating. But it was just the most. I wouldn't wish that on anybody. Nobody would have to go through that.
Okay. Ventersdorp is a predominantly white area. Have you received any community support or assistance from the community?
Look, when the incident happened, I think a lot of people came, and they came to apologize, and they came to say that, this is a hateful crime and they don't approve of it. The neighbors as well were white people, and they came to also say that they knew Mohammed Faiaz from the time he was a small boy, and they disapproved completely of what had happened. So the support was there, that's for sure.
Okay, and then has your perception or your family's perception, your in-laws' perception changed possibly of the white community or whites in general?
Look, I don't think it's fair for us to judge the entire white community based on two ignorant people and what they did on that day. So I have many friends who are white teachers, white friends and things like that as well. So I don't judge, none of us judge all the white people based on what happened to us. But there are a few that, when we come across, when we hear about remarks made to people, we think of this and we say these are part of the ignorant lot that are around.
As far as the media reporting is concerned, do you think the story was reported in a fair and accurate manner?
Oh, definitely. I think that the media from all radio station, news groups, all of them have been excellent, and they've been doing a very successful job, and positive feedback we've been getting on it as well. So the media has been very, very helpful and very supportive as well.
Has there been any media interference? Have they been in your face, or any negative reporting in that aspect?
I haven't experienced that. I don't think any of my family members have either, but still up until now, I think it's just been messages of support and understanding from everybody.
Right. After Mohammed Faiaz passed away, you had to sit in Idit for 4 months and 10 days. How did you feel the first time you seen Zain van Tonner and Rudolf Viviers on television?
Okay, look, I've seen them in the newspaper articles first. And when I looked at them, I just remember thinking that they're such big guys. And when they told me that Rudolf Viviers was the one that hit Mohammed Faiaz, I just thought to myself that he's such a big, he looks like a very strong, built guy. And the only thing that went through my head at that moment was that my husband went through a lot of pain because, it's such a big guy that was hitting him.
Obviously, Zain van Tonder was charged as well, along with Rudolf Verviers, and in one of the court appearances, charges against Zain was dropped. How did you feel when charges were dropped against Zain?
You know, that feeling I can't explain to you, because for me, in all, whatever I've read and understood of what happened that day, both of them were responsible. Yes, the one had the muscle, but the other one was the one who started the vulgar remarks and things like that. So he's equally guilty. But I suppose that, you know, we have to abide by what the justice system says, and in the justice system it was common assault, so there wasn't much to go on. They had chose to take Verviers to task more.
Was there any outcry from your community or from the community in general with regards to the charges being dropped against Zain?
I think that on the media networks, if we look, there was a lot of people that questioned why he was released and things like that. But I don't think there was any real, you know, rioting or anything going on because of that reason. Because I think they were also, the community is very understanding, and they understood the perspective that it came from, because it was explained at the court.
Okay. Quickly, like I said, when you seen Zain, do you feel that it was unfair that the charges were dropped against him?
Oh, definitely. I felt that he should have served, you know, in my opinion, I felt that he should have served some form of punishment, some form of jail time, but it wasn't in our hands.
You tune to Perspective. We're speaking to Sister Sajidah Kazi. Her husband, Marhum Faizel Kazi, was brutally assaulted by two Afrikaner men. We're going to go for a short break, and inshallah, after the break, we will continue speaking to Sister Sajidah Kazi. Stay tuned.
أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا ربي أنا.
Welcome back to Perspective. I'm Faizel Patel. We're speaking to Sister Sajidah Kazi. Her husband was brutally and savagely attacked by two white Afrikaner men in August last year. Now, Sajidah, did Zain van Tonder approach you or your family to ask for forgiveness for what he had done?
I know that he didn't approach me, but he did approach my dad at one of the bail hearings. But it was such an emotional time for us. There was so much being said on that day. You know, they mentioned that there was no public outcry. So we were all very emotional at that time. And in that emotional state, he approached my dad. So my dad was, you know, he was fuming and he was furious, and it was all out of emotion. And I think that that was the wrong time to approach my dad. But as far as that, what transpired there, I'm not too sure what happened.
Has Rudolf Verviers tried to make contact with you and your family? I know he's sitting in incarceration in a Krugersdorp prison. You know, has he maybe sent a letter out or any messages to you and your family saying that he's remorseful for what he's done?
Not that I know of. No, we aren't aware of anything that he sent to us.
Will you be able to forgive Rudolf Verviers for what he's ever done to your husband?
You know, hatred is something that consumes people. So I know that I'm not living with any of that in my heart. But as far as forgiveness, only time will tell. I make dua that Allah Ta'ala gives me that peace in my heart eventually. But for now, I'm not exactly sure. I'm confused myself.
Do you think that Islamophobia and racism is still prevalent in South Africa? I mean, your husband went through, he was mocked for his beard, referring, the two accused were referring to him as Osama bin Laden. Do you think that racism is prevalent, Islamophobia is prevalent in South Africa?
I think that racism is very much prevalent, and I think that it's just a group of people who are maybe uneducated with regard to what Islam is, and they don't have an understanding of how beautiful our religion is, and therefore the only thing that they can do is mock it. And I think many of the cases are not reported, so people are not made aware of it. But if we had to actually ask our community how many people have been victims of racial remarks and things, I think that we would have a whole lot of people coming up forward and saying that.
Okay. Now that this case has gone forward, and obviously we're going to court on the 7th of October, is that correct?
Yes, 7th of October.
Have you been mocked for your headscarf because of this whole case by any chance, or your family been mocked by a headscarf or anything?
Up until now, Shukar, I haven't been a victim of any of those remarks. But in the past, there have been a lot of people that, and it's sad actually, because sometimes you see it's children and you think that where do the children learn it from? It's coming from their homes, it's coming from their backgrounds. So it's what they're learning at home that they put forward into public.
Okay. For the viewers that don't know, when is the trial and where is the trial, and for how many days, if possible, will the trial be?
The trial date is set for the 7th of October. How long, we're not sure yet. And I've heard that it would be at Palm Ridge, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's not going to be at the Johannesburg High Court?
Today we heard that it's going to be at Palm Ridge. So we ourselves are not sure where it is, but we'll be able to check it out.
Are you and Mohammed Fayaz's mother, going to be at the trial? Are you going to be there for all the duration of the days?
Inshallah, I'm going to be there. I'm not sure about my mother-in-law, but if she decides to come, if she has that strength in her to come, then we'll be seeing her as well. Okay,
this is another difficult question I need to ask you. Sure. What if Viviers goes free? Have you and your legal team got a plan of action? We're hoping that justice prevails, but for some unsightly reason he does go free. Have you guys got an alternative?
I think the lawyers themselves know what their strategies are. As far as I don't think we've really looked at that. They could have looked at that option. In my heart and with us, we haven't really looked at that option. But in the end, we must always remember that in Allah Ta'ala's hands, and whatever is meant to be will be. And as far as that is concerned, I haven't looked that forward in time and think what I would do if that has happened, because I'm making so much dua, and so many people, everybody's making dua that he gets punished and sits jail time.
Okay. Another difficult question. If you had to see Viviers in the street, assuming, God forbid, he's acquitted for something that he's done, what would you say to him? If you had to see him, even if it's not in the street, if you had to see him in court and if you had an opportunity to speak to him, what would you say to him?
Sitting here thinking right now, I hope that he never ever crosses my path, because it would just bring back all that emotion and all that pain. But if I had to see him, I would probably, I would turn the other way and walk, not because of hatred, not because of that, but to save myself from the pain. And for me, there's just absolutely no excuse, nothing that he can say that will justify what he did that day.
Now, obviously we're going to court in the next week or so, week and a half or so. What are your plans after the case? Once the trial is over, and I'm sure you're praying for a conviction, but once that is over, what are your plans for that?
Look, Shukr to Allah, I have my job and carry on, and all we can do is we stay steadfast and we make lots of dua and we send a lot of itale thawab to the marhums, and from there onwards it's just a way forward. We have to put the trial and all of that behind us and move forward, and because we can't detest what happens there, we can't say that that was wrong or stay hell-bent on that. So I think that we'll just have to move forward eventually.
Okay. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had to ask you this, in this dunya, to make any dua, what would you like it to be, and if it would be accepted, what dua would you make? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you a chance, said, if you make a dua, it will be accepted, what dua would you make?
My dua, my one and only dua that I'm facing now as well, is that Allah Ta'ala reunite me with my husband in Jannatul Firdaus.
And the last question, what is your advice to other people that have been through a similar situation?
I think it's so important to remember that loneliness is something that can really destroy you if you let it. Stay around your family, your friends, allow their support and love to come through to you. And also have stern faith in Allah Ta'ala. Continue and stay steadfast on your religion. Never question why, as hard as it is, never question why Allah Ta'ala has done something or why this. Because in the end, it's taqdeer. Everything is set out the way it's supposed to be by Allah Ta'ala. So I think steadfast on religion, every answer that we need is in our Quran, is in our religion, is in our lifestyle.
Jazakallah, Sajidah, for coming on to Perspective. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you.
Ameen. Jazakallah for having me.
Okay. Coming to terms with the death of a loved one is a long, tedious process and affects everyone that has lost a person close to them. Islamophobia is rife And in this case, we hope that justice can prevail and also set an example that racism, Islamophobia, or prejudice in any form will not be condoned. We make that dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy on Sister Sajidah, her family, and the Kazi family. Jazakallah for watching. Join me again next week, inshallah, as we unpack stories that are making headlines. I welcome your comments or feedback. Mail me at faisal@itvnetworks.tv, tweet me on @Faizi143, or post a comment on facebook.com/Faizel Patel. From myself, Faizel Patel, and the great team here at ITV, fi amanillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى أناجي الحق في ليل بهيم أصدق النجوى وأدعو الله من قلب سليم يطلب التقوى إلهي صرت في ظرف عصيب فاكشف البلوى فيا رب